Hi weaving friends, today's tutorial is all about supplementary weft. I'm going to be talking about what a supplementary weft is, and then I'll be showing you how easy it is to incorporate into your weaving to make beautiful and really unique fabric. Today's tutorial is brought to you by the online weaving school. Whether you are a rigid heddle, table loom, floor loom or Inkle loom weaver, there really is something for everybody at the weaving school. You can choose from single purchase classes or from a variety of memberships. I'll leave the link to the weaving school down below so that you can go and check it out. A supplementary weft is simply a weft that is brought into a piece and is separate to your normal weft. Overshot is a great example of this because it uses a pattern weft as well as the original tabby weft or plain weave weft in order to create the pattern, and for that reason the supplementary weft is also often called the pattern weft. It's an excellent way to highlight a particular yarn. It works beautifully for hand spun or novelty yarns. But there are so many different ways that you can use this technique that you can use a huge array of yarns and it's still going to look fantastic. Supplementary wefts are often used with a pickup stick to highlight the pattern yarn and to create a pattern at the same time. And that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be showing you how simple it is to incorporate a pickup stick in a simple pickup pattern and then use a few different supplementary wefts to bring them in and have a look at how they contrast with our tabby yarn. Now, if you're interested in diving into some of the details like the yarn brands that I've used, and if you would like a printable of the pickup patterns that I've incorporated, then please head over to my blog and I will leave that link for you down below. All the information will be there laid out for you. Okay, so let's get on with today's tutorial. I'm going to be doing mine on my Sampleit loom, which I have just warped up for regular plain weave. I'm using a DK weight wool here and I've got my 7.5 dent reed or heddle. And for my regular weft, I'm going to be using the exact same yarn that I did use for my warp. So I've been weaving away a little bit of plain weave here, just with the same yarn in my up and down sheds, and then I've decided I'm going to introduce a bit of a supplementary weft to make my fabric more interesting. Generally you would be using the same yarn for your tabby or your plain weave as you have for your warp. That's not a rule, but it balances things out and allows the supplementary weft to really be highlighted. So I'm going to stick with that for now. We may experiment afterwards with a different tabby weft as well. You can incorporate a different color, a different weight of tabby yarn and your supplementary weft as well for really interesting effects. So I've got a little variety of yarns over here that I can choose from. One that I will start with is this Noro yarn. I like it because it's spun a little bit thick and thin. It's a little bit slubby. It has all different colors incorporated into it, so it's a really perfect yarn for a supplementary weft. But before I introduce my Noro, I'm going to do my pickup. So to do my pickup, I always put my heddle in the down position. And I've got my little baby pickup stick here that matches with my Sampleit, which is great. And the great thing about doing this is there aren't any rules about, you know, what sort of pickup is best to do. It's just really you experimenting and seeing what you personally like. So I'm going to start out with, I think I'll do a 1-2 pickup. So let's have a look at what that looks like. Don't forget to put your heddle down. We always put the heddle down for doing pickup because it's the slot threads that we want to be picking up, and putting the heddle down raises the slot threads up. So for a 1-2 pickup, I'm going to be going 1 up and 2 down. So looking behind the heddle, I'm choosing from these threads only, and I want to have 1 thread on top of the pickup stick, and then I want to have 2 threads underneath it. So I call that 1 up, 2 down, 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 one up, and then I finish with an extra one on the side. If you're doing an actual piece and not just a sampler, you may want to figure out ahead of time how to get that to balance out so that you can finish off with 2 down or whatever you want to finish off with. So now my pickup stick is inserted and it's ready to use. So I can put my heddle back into neutral. Okay, so between each pattern row, I'm going to have a tabby row and I'm going to alternate those tabby rows. If you're thinking to yourself, what did she just say? Don't worry about it. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. Just remember the tabby rows are the plain weave rows. I'm going to actually start with one of those plain weave rows. So I'm going in the up shed and taking my regular tabby weft through, and then I can beat that. And now I want to introduce my supplementary weft. I'm going to go into the neutral shed. I'm going to bring my pickup stick forward and turn it on edge. And that's what's going to create this pattern, this supplementary weft pattern for us. Doesn't matter which side you bring your pattern weft in. You'll notice that I haven't bothered to put my pattern weft on a stick shuttle. This all depends on how long you want to be weaving it for. If you're only doing a short section, you may just want a little ball like this. Okay, so that's my first row of supplementary weft. I can put my pickup stick back and beat that in place. And I'm also going to want to deal with that tail. So I'm going to go into the next shed and I will tuck the tail into the shed, just so it's not hanging off the side there. So you can see already this lovely pattern that has been made. Now I'm in the down shed, so this is my other tabby row. Up is my first tabby row, down is my second tabby row, and I alternate between them with my pattern weft or my supplementary weft. So I'm going to go back into the shed, which you remember is just the same as my warp thread, and then I can beat that into place. And now the pattern weft is kind of encased within some tabby weft. And this is an important feature of the supplementary weft as well. If I were to actually remove this weft, this pattern weft that we've just put in, and I'm going to do it just so that you can see, if I pull it out, you see that my fabric still has structural integrity because of those tabby wefts in between each row of pattern weft. So I'm just going to take that back and put my pattern weft back in, because I do actually want it in there. So I'll go back into neutral, pick up stick on edge. So that's one feature of the supplementary weft, is the fabric doesn't rely on the supplementary weft, it relies on the tabby to hold it together. And then into the down shed and through. Now this is where you can make some decisions about the kind of design that you want to have. I could follow up straight away now with another supplementary weft, but because my Noro is really quite thick and the other yarn, I've just done one row of tabby, it's going to be very thin in between the Noro rows, and I feel like I want the Noro to stand out a little bit more than that. So I'm going to do 2 more rows of tabby in between. Completely optional and something for you to try to see what you like. I just find that I like, if I'm going to weave a pattern, I want it to really be a feature without being all smushed up against itself. Okay, so that was up and down, and now I'm going to go back into neutral. I'm going to bring my pickup stick forward once more, and now I'm bringing my supplementary weft or my pattern weft back in. Pick up, stick back, beat that into place, and now perhaps you can see a little bit more what I was talking about, the space between the pattern wefts, to really highlight that. You know, when you have a little bit of space between something, it can really make it pop a little bit more. So I'm in the up shed, that's my first tabby, And then I'm going to go down and up. So I'm doing 3 plain weave rows in between each pattern weft. Now into neutral again, bring my pickup stick forward and on edge. And then take my supplementary weft through. Beat that into place, and then I can continue with my tabby rows. Now that I've talked about the pattern weft not having space in between, I think I'll show you what that actually looks like so you can have a comparison. Now that I've got 3 rows of this supplementary weft where they are spaced, I'll now make a couple of rows where they're not as spaced, where they just have 1 row of tabby in between. So just to finish off that little part of the design, I'll do 2 more tabby picks just like I did before, so they're separated by 3. Okay, so now into neutral, pick up stick forward, supplementary weft, pick up stick back and beat. And then I'm going to go into the up shed for my plain weave. And I'm going to follow it straight away with another supplementary weft. So heddle into neutral, pick up stick forward and take that through. Beat, and then into the down shed for my tabby. And let's do another one so that we can really get that comparison. So heddle into neutral, pick up stick forward, and the weft goes through. And then finishing off with an up shed tabby. Now you can see the difference here between the spaced supplementary wefts and the unspaced. They both look great, but they're just a different thing, and there's lots of different ways that you can do this. So there's 2 ideas for you to start out with. I've got a little bit of my hand spun here to try this time, but I'm also going to change the pickup pattern. So remember, to do that we have to put the heddle into the down position. I'll take out my pickup stick, and this time I'm going to do a 1-1 pickup. So I'm going to go 1 up, 1 down, 1 up, 1 down, all the way across. There we go. And I'm going to basically follow the exact same pattern, weaving pattern that I did before. But it's going to be a little bit different because we've switched yarns and we've switched the pickup pattern. So I'm ready to bring in my supplementary weft because I finished off with a couple of rows of plain weave there. So heddle in neutral, pick up stick on edge, and then in comes this weft and through, beat. And then I'm going to go into the up tabby shed. And beat that. Now I have to decide, am I going to go into the down tabby shed and give it a bit of extra space, or am I going to repeat the pickup pattern? I think that I will repeat the pickup pattern, at least for now, and see how it looks. Now, another decision that you need to make when you're doing this is what you're going to do at your edges. So you have 2 wefts in play here, your tabby weft and your pattern weft, and at the edges you're going to notice that you can either arrange them to wrap around each other, or you can arrange them so to avoid each other. I'm wrapping for this one. My decision there is because this pattern weft is not too thick. Often if it's a thicker yarn, it might not look as good being wrapped at the edge. It might stick out and have a little bit of extra bulk. And if that's the case, then I might decide to not have the two wefts wrap around each other. But I am wrapping them for this one. This pattern weft is not all that thick. Up shed and my tabby. And then back into neutral, pick up stick, which doesn't want to stay in place, and supplementary weft. Finishing up with my tabby in the down shed, alternating between up and down. And this one's quite nice. Now another thing that you can do is you can do a certain number of repeats of the supplementary weft in a section to create border type things. So here I'm doing 3 tabby wefts in between, and then I'm going back into my pattern weft. So I've done 4 repeats of the pattern weft sequence here. So the pattern weft sequence is pattern weft, up shed, pattern weft, down shed, and so on. And now I'm going to repeat the pattern weft here and do it for 4 times again. And then I'll get the sort of little blocks of supplementary weft. So up shed for tabby, neutral, pick up stick, and supplementary weft. And then down for tabby, and then neutral, pick up stick, supplementary weft comes back in, and then up shed for tabby, and then one more pattern weft to make it just the same as the first set of repeats that I did. Remember, if you're getting a little bit lost, this will all be in a printable notes section on my blog, and the link for that will be down below. And then down and tabby. And then I did 2 more rows for a total of 3 rows of tabby in between the repeats. So that's my 3rd tabby there. I really like this one actually. I like the contrast and I like the colours. So I'm going to weave 1 more repeat of those blocks so that you can then have a look and see what you think. All right, I've got another variation for you to try, and yes, we're going to change our pickup yet again. So heddle into the down position. Let's take that stick out. This time I'm doing 2 up, 2 down. 2 up, 2 down. 2 up, 2 down, all the way across. If you find it difficult to pick up threads behind the heddle, if it's a bit hard to see, do it in the front first and then transfer it to the back. You'll find that easier. All right, let's put the heddle into neutral, and this time I'm changing yarns as well. I'm using a similar weight to the warp that I've got on here, but obviously it's in different colors. So what I want to show you this time is that you can choose the placement of your supplementary weft. It doesn't necessarily have to go through from edge to edge, side to side. Let me show you what I mean. So I've got my heddle in neutral and I'm bringing my pickup stick forward, and that's going to show me where my pattern is. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I like these pairs, 1, 2, 3, 4 across here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to not use the 2 pairs on the either side, just for my supplementary weft. Okay, let's see what that looks like. So I'm coming in, but I'm excluding this pair at the end, and I will also exclude this pair by pulling my supplementary weft down through the warp. Okay, and then I'm just going to sit that there, and then I'm going to beat it, and then I'm going to do my tabby shed. So I'm going into the up shed and just let that supplementary weft sit there for a moment. Going into up, and then I'll go back into neutral. I will bring my pickup stick forward again. And now I'm going to pick up my supplementary weft and take it back into the shed, but only for those 4 pairs that I want at the moment. Okay, just like that. Stick back and beat. And then I'm in the down shed for my tabby. Take that through. And of course this looks great on the dark background because it's such a bright yarn. And then I'll go back into neutral, pick up stick forward again, and then I'm going to pop back in underneath those 4 pairs. Into the up position for my tabby. Don't get your 2 weft yarns tangled. That can happen easily. And I will do one more of my pattern wefts. Take that through. Beat. And then into the down shed for my tabby. Oh, this looks so good. Actually, before I beat that tabby, if I'm not continuing my pattern weft from here, I'm going to duck the shuttle down to the back. Okay, and then I'm going to cut it, but I'm going to leave a tail that I can actually needle weave in afterwards to secure it at the back when the piece is finished and before I wet finish it. So now I'll do that down tabby I was going to do. And from here, I have choices about what I want to do next. I can try to create some sort of pattern by using the same idea of using these pickup threads that I chose, but using them in a different way. So for example, let's say I choose to do a full shed of my pattern weft this time. Heddle into up. And I'm going to tuck in my pattern weft tail at the edge. So up shed for my tabby, take that through. And then I'm going to do a down shed for my tabby as well, because I want to give this a little bit more space. And you can see here how with something like the supplementary weft, you can just design on the loom. You barely even need to plan anything out before you begin, which is something that I really love to do. Some may say it's because I'm lazy, and yes I am, but it also suits my creative process to design on the loom. Okay, so now we've got that one line that goes all the way across. What will I do now? I could do another line, or I could do another block of patterns. I could do them in one spot, I could do them in more spots. Let's see, what shall I do? Decisions. I think I'm going to do another pattern block just the same. So I need to cut my pattern weft, and really I should have woven that edge in, but because I'm not planning anything, I don't get to. I can needle weave it in afterwards if I want to. All right, so let's do that again. We're going to go under those 4. I'm going to take that tail through to the back so it's not bothering me. And the cool thing about having used a variegated yarn here is that I'll be showing different colours here now in the next set of blocks, which is very nice. Again, it's the yarn doing the extra work for you. And my tabby is in the down shed. How do I know which tabby shed I'm supposed to be in? Well, for me, I have a little rule, or it's more of a habit than a rule, that if I'm on the left with my shuttle, then I'm in the up shed. If I'm on the right, then I'm in the down shed. Very simple. I almost always keep them on the same sides, so it's always easy to tell. Now I'm back in neutral with the heddle and the pickup sticks on edge, and I'm going back through. With my pattern weft or my supplementary weft. So you see my tabby shuttles on the left right now, so I know I've got to go into the up shed. Takes the thinking out of it if you have these kind of habits. Back into neutral, pick up stick on edge, and going through. You know, something else we could do just for fun is I could go through 3 pairs this time instead of 4. And see how that looks. Down shed for tabby. And then neutral for the pattern weft pickup stick. So this time I'm going back, and I can go back all the 3 pairs if I want to, or I can only go back 2. I'll go back 3 though. And then heddle is in up. So I could carry on with that idea that I just had of skipping some of the pairs. So if I go for the pattern weft again for this row, I'll go in, but I'll only go in 2 pairs this time. So you see I'm shortening it to make sort of stair steps. And oops, I've caught my tabby weft with my pattern weft. Fix that up. All right. So tabby's in down this time. And then we'll go back with the pattern weft. Go back through to the beginning. And then up for my tabby. Then I can continue with that idea. And instead of taking it 2 pairs this time, I can just take it the 1. All right, separate my wefts out. It's getting a little bit crazy here. There, underneath the first pair, but not the others. And tabby's in down. And then into pattern weft again. I'll use pattern weft and supplementary weft interchangeably because I'm so used to weaving overshot where you say pattern weft, and you know it's pretty much the same thing. So I hope you're not confused by my terminology. It's like sometimes I call this a heddle, sometimes I call it a reed. And that's kind of the end of that progression there. So you can get that kind of shape and angle. So because I'm finished with that section, I'm going to dive this down to the back again so that it doesn't get stuck showing at the top. And then that should have stayed over to complete that. Okay. And then I can do a little bit more tabby. So I'll do an up and a down shed to separate those out a little bit. And then I could decide what to do from there. Do I want to do another row of pattern weft from side to side? Yes, actually I do. Doing this, there's going to be a long float at the back. If you don't want long floats at the back of your work, just cut it off, leave a tail as I described before. You can needle weave that in and then restart your pattern weft at the edge. So there's my row once more. Then I think I'm going to finish that pattern weft there. So I will cut it off, tuck it in. So I'm in my tabby shed now. And then I'll follow that up with my tabby. And I'll do just another row of tabby there. For my last example, I'm really going to mix up everything that we've learned in this tutorial and sort of combine them together. For my tabby yarn, I did mention earlier that I would try a different coloured tabby, so that's what I'm doing. And this is actually a different weight of yarn as well. So this is in between a lace weight and a fingering weight. It's fairly thin and it's a hand-dyed colour. It's like my favourite colour in the world. If I only had this colour to look at for the rest of my life, I would probably be pretty happy with that. I'm a little bit obsessed with it. I call it a teal. I don't know if it looks like a teal on camera, but I absolutely love it. And because it's hand dyed, it's not completely uniform in its colour. I just love it. Absolutely love it. And then for my supplementary weft, I've got a DK weight again, wool. And this is also a hand dyed, but it's in pretty bright, loud colours, as you can see. We're going to be changing the pick up again. So heddle in, down. And I'm going to do a one-on-one pickup. So one up, one down. As we did earlier, you'll recall. Don't forget to check out the printable if you need all this stuff written down. You can just print it out and then you don't even have to think about it. You just follow the instructions along with the video. All right, so I'll start by doing a little bit of plain weave with our new colour, the best colour in the world, according to me. And that's the up shed and then the down. So introducing the different tabby colour as well makes for an interesting cloth because you've still got the colour of the warp, but now you've got this different colour on top as the plain weave. Looks pretty already. I'll just do a few rows of that. Oh, so gorgeous. With the navy warp. Beautiful. And then I'll go into neutral for my first pattern, my first supplementary weft. I'll pop my pickup stick on edge and then I'll bring in this super bright yarn. Leave a little tail off the edge, beat that into place, and then I will go into the up shed for my tabby, and I'll also take the opportunity to tuck that tail into the warp. So up shed tabby. And then I'm going to do a repeat of the supplementary weft. And then into the down shed for my tabby. Now I'm going to do something different. There's a lot of colour in this because I've changed that tabby, right? It makes a huge difference. all of a sudden you've got this explosion of colour. Well, this of course is extremely colourful as well. So I'm going to do something a little bit different to break up the pattern. I'm going to put the heddle into neutral, into the down position. And remember when we picked up this pattern, we did one up, one down. I'm going to change it to one down, one up. Now, if you wanted to do a pattern like this and you were going to be doing it for some time, if it was, you know, say for a scarf, which is quite long, and you're going to be committed to a certain pattern for a long time, it would be worth putting one of these pick-up sheds on a heddle rod and then putting the other pick-up shed, the opposite one, on the stick, so that you're not taking the stick out and putting it back in each time. I don't mind doing that because I'm just showing you something, but I'm not committed to the pattern. So back into neutral, pick up stick forward, and we did our last tabby, and we're going to bring through the supplementary weft again. That's one thing about using balls of yarn instead of threading them onto a shuttle, is the sheds won't want to stay open as well for you with the pickup stick. Okay, so I can beat that and then follow it up with my tabby. And then I'm going to repeat that pattern row again so that it matches with the first one, because we did 2 repeats of the first one. And then follow up with a down shed tabby. Now what I'm feeling here is that this piece is extremely busy. It's way too busy. So I'm going to put a little bit of distance between it and the next repeat with a little bit of extra tabby. Otherwise, it's a lot of texture and it's a lovely pattern if you see it up close, but it's just hard to see that pattern when there's so much going on. So this time I've given it a little bit of space with 4 rows of tabby. Then I'll go back into that pattern, but I've got to revert to the first pattern. So instead of one down, one up, I'm doing one up, one down. And then we can repeat just what we did in the first place. Put the heddle in neutral, pick up stick on edge, bring in your supplementary weft, and beat, and then up shed tabby, and then repeat that supplementary weft again. You can tell here that I really didn't sort out this ball before I started. I just grabbed it out of my little spares drawer where I've got all of these bits of leftover yarn, but I didn't really organise it into a ball, and I should have. This is a really great way to use up leftover yarn, by the way. All right, so that's 2 repeats of the supplementary, and then we bring the tabby back in on the down shed, and then the change again. So into the down position, instead of one up, one down, we're doing one down, one up. You can get pretty fast at this once you've had a fair amount of practice. Or even a little bit of practice helps. Back into neutral, stick forward and on edge. See if this ball is going to behave well enough for me. It's a mess, but it works. And then up shed for the tabby. And then down shed, no. And then neutral, pick up, stick forward, supplementary weft comes back in. Oh dear, this is embarrassing. I should have tidied this all up before I started. and finishing off with the downshed tabby. And then to repeat exactly what I did before, I'd be repeating some of the tabby rows to make that space between them. Now, because this looks so incredibly busy right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring back in my original tabby weft, my nice dark blue. Even though I love my teal with all my heart and soul, I know that it just doesn't work so well for this piece because there's too much colour going on and that can detract. So instead, I'll bring this guy back in and do a couple of rows of that. Okay, and then to show you something a little bit different but with the similar idea, I'm going to put the heddle in neutral. I'm leaving this pick up stick pattern as is and starting with that one this time, just so I don't have to take that stick out another time. And then I'm going to do an upshed tabby. And then I'm going to go into the downshed because I want to change that pickup already. So instead of down, up, down, I'm going to do up, down, up, across. Just to illustrate something to you, different ways you can use this. Into heddle, pick up stick on edge, and then crazy messy pattern weft goes through. And then beat, and then I'll finish with my downshed tabby. And then into down again because I need to change the pickup again. So I'm really alternating the pickup each pattern row here. So you would definitely want to put this on a heddle rod, wouldn't you? Rather than having that tedium of putting the stick in and out for every single pattern row. But I just did really want to show you this contrast. And then finish up with my upshed tabby. And then I'll do one more row of the pattern weft alternating. So I'm doing up, down again now. Up, down, up, down. Into neutral, pick up stick forward, messy, crazy, supplementary weft goes through, and then into the downshed again. So what this does is it alternates the weft floats, so you have them a little bit offset, so it doesn't make blocks, built up blocks like we did down further here. It makes, interesting different patterns. And you could always do, like, say 2 repeats of one, then offset for 2 repeats like we did here, but then to keep doing that pattern. Or you could do 2 repeats and then do a little bit of tabby in between to give that space to really make that pattern stand out. I'm going to do that right now, and so the end shot here will be that alternating with a little bit of tabby space in between. Friends, I hope that you feel that you really learned something today, and most of all, I hope that you had fun. I know that I did. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please do share this video with anyone you think may benefit from it. Until next time, happy weaving!